Welcome everybody from joining in. Hi, Chris from Tulsa. I'm Troy Ferguson, as Stephanie said, Senior Product Manager for Lectora. I'm just north of Charlotte. So bringing us here today and bringing Alan here, and some of you may have met Alan before or not, and this may be your first time doing that, but Alan is one of our, basically, Alan is the guy responsible for a ton of our templates and reusable assets and kind of our expertise, our subject matter expert when it comes to that. And so in previous webinars, we've talked, Dallas Fort Worth, sorry, squirrel. I'm from Louisville, or from Amarillo originally, Molly, so good to see you. Sorry, man, the squirrel got me. But with reusable assets. But in previous webinars, we've talked about how do we get from a Lectora template, we've mentioned this specifically, a Lectora template to a finished product faster. How do I go from, there's one of me, there's 10 departments that need training completed. How do I reuse the stuff I've already made and go from 0 to 100 and faster using Lectora? And so that's what we've brought Alan here to share with us, and he's the expert to do it. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Alan.
Thank you, Troy. Thanks everyone for joining today. So as Troy just said, we're gonna learn today how to use library objects, which are really important parts of Lectora development. On creating templates. Let me share my screen so we can start. Okay. Can you guys see my Lectora screen or not?
Alan, it's just your desktop again. I think it might be on your other monitor.
Okay, cool. 1 second then. I think you can now, right?
No, it's still, oh, there it is. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so one of the things that I do here at ELB Learning is creating, templates. So where do we start? How we start creating a template? It's pretty, it's simple, but there is a couple of things we need to take into consideration and to put the best practices in it. By the way, I'm Alan Marquez. I'm from Mexico City, and let's start by creating a new project, right? So we'll know this part. So let's create a blank theme here. No theme. Okay, let's create. So what is the basic structure of a template? Okay, you can when you create a long course or a long course or course starter, or you have a big course, you can break it up into small modules or into pages, so you don't get all your content into one single page or one single slide. So we try to break this up into several like mini interactions or mini modules, so you can export these individual interactions at the end, or you can reuse these assets for later. So that's basically the use of how we created templates. We started creating a big course starter, and then we break this up into individual modules or interactions that we put out in our libraries, or we can save into our own assets, library, and reuse them on different scenarios or different courses. So that's where we're gonna create today. So how we started this, one of the things that I like about our library here is that we can have different size of images. We can use our assets for this. On this webinar, I'm not gonna use much external assets or graphics, for this particular template, but I will just have one background image that I'm gonna download from here. And I like to pick this one because it's pretty similar to the Lectora stage that I have in Lectora right now. So it's 1000 by 67667. Let me download this. And okay, so let me start by importing this image into the stage, which I should already have. And I don't have to change much of this. So I'll go to the position and size and resize this a bit. This is 92662. Okay. And let me align this into the center. Okay, so this is the only asset that is going to be an image. Everything that we're going to put into this template will be graphics created or generated inside Lectora. Like this second element that I'm going to add here, which is basically a background or overlay for this image. So I want to add some transparency to this. I can do this by selecting style and change this color to black. I'm probably an opacity around 70%. I'm going to make sure that the image size is the same. And I also can, use the coordinates to align this into the center. Okay. Okay, so I have this image, I have this rectangle, and I'm going to add a third element here because I want to add like a pattern so it will look like flat. So I basically, what I just did was copy and paste this shape. And one of the best practices, for creating templates is to rename this properly. So you can just rename it with simple words like background. This might be the overlay. And we can rename this pattern. So always rename your elements on your project, so you don't get confused when you start adding actions into this. We'll see, in a bit how to add actions. And this pattern, I'm going to change the opacity to 100%. I'll add a texture, or rather a pattern. It might take a bit to load, but I'm going to choose a dot pattern. Okay, it could be this one. It's not, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it in here. So it's in there, guys. So we have our background elements. So another practice for this is to start grouping elements that you're gonna interact with, like right. So the background elements, will group them. Right click and just create a group, and we're going to rename these background elements. Okay, so we know we are not going to interact with this, and this the layering order in a Lectora project. If an element it's at the top part of it, it will be as background. So every time we create a new asset, we have to be in front of it, or at the bottom level, and it means it will be in front of you. And I'm going to create before I tell you what sort of interaction I'm going to create, let me start adding the title and the subtitle for this. So I'm just going to insert a text block here, and this will be my page title. And one of the things that we do when we create templates is to start using variables this variable will hold the page name, the current page name of your current page. For example, I'm not gonna type anything into here. I'm just gonna insert an action in here. A variable, right? I said action variable, and this action should be current page name. Now it inserted a variable. I'm going to change the color so you can see it. Cool. And just let me change the font in here. Okay, so now I have a nice title in here. Okay, so this is currently called page 1. If I rename this, we have to change it. I will change it to pyramid interaction. Pyramid, click to reveal. Pyramid, click to reveal. And when we run this, because we're using this variable, it will just, use or copy the name from the current page. This is really important because every time that you import this interaction into a different course, it will take the name of the page and it will just rename it. So you don't have to type it every time. So, okay, so we have this. And let me add a graphic in here. And also let me rename this layer to page title so we know what we're talking about. Okay, cool. Let me add another background element in here, which is just a line that divides the page from the content, the title from the content. And I'm going to add dots because I like dots for this interaction. Cool, I think this looks great. Let me change the position of it to 100. Okay. Okay, now I can move this line into the background element because I'm not gonna use it or interact with it. I can put it in here. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm gonna create a click to reveal interaction real quick here. So, but I'm gonna create a pyramid one, right? So I'm not gonna be like a tab interaction, but instead I'm gonna create a pyramid interaction. And one of the things that it is sometimes when you get a design from the design team, sometimes the translation, coming from Illustrator to Lectora, sometimes it's a bit difficult because it takes time to, for you to wait, man, how can I do this in Lectora? So I would try to, I would try to show you how I would do it when creating pyramids, right? So let me insert let me put in here, let me create use a triangle in here. And this triangle is just for reference. I'm gonna remove this asset once it's done. And I'm gonna start inserting 3 shapes, and we'll try to create this pyramid. So let me use another triangle in here. Okay, and let me just change the reference color because I don't want to get confused. Right. So I have but now I will need a trapezoid because I need to create the middle part of it. So let's insert a trapezoid here. Okay. And this is when, where the fun starts, because you have to start modifying the shape to fit it in the pyramid. So yeah, you have this yellow diamond here, and you can start, just changing the position of it so it fits, so it matches the reference image. So let me change the color of this. Let me change the color of this too. And let me add a third trapezoid here for the bottom part. Okay. Okay, so we have our pyramid. And let me remove the reference here, triangle up. And what I just said before, let's rename this to button 1, button 2, so we don't get confused. But these aren't buttons yet. We have to turn these shapes into buttons. Button 3. Okay. So how can we do this? We just right click into the shape that just we imported, we insert it, and we're gonna convert it to button. So we can use any shape in Lectora that we create. Within Lectora, we can turn it into a button. It could be a star, it could be a rectangle, it could be a circle, everything you can turn into a button. You can even use or have images turned into buttons. There you go. And now after you have turned it into a button, you can access this tile pane or window, and you can start changing the properties, the color properties or style properties. And I'm going to change the selected color to a different one. Or let's say like, what would be better? I want something that stands. Okay, let's put it yellow for now. Okay, so one second, guys. Okay, so let me change also the overcolor in here. And I want to explain what is the reason I'm doing this in a minute. Okay, so I have different colors for every state of my first button. So there is a tool that it's sometimes overlooked tool in Lectora that I find really fascinating because it's a time-saving tool that we use much, and it's Style Painter. If you have never used it, it's really going to save time for you. Just click on it and just click on the image, on the shape, and then click on the second shape, and it will copy. Yeah, it hasn't copied the style color because I haven't turned this into a button. It's really important to convert this image into, this shape into button, and then you can use your the style painter. So I want to change the color so you guys can see it, the example, better. Okay, yes. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so this is the style painter. Click on this, and then it's more like a dragon. Oh man, what's going on? It's not working. One second, guys. Okay, it worked backwards. So no, I have to change the color of this to turn this into a pink. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, but it's basically, there you go. Now it's copied. You have to click on it and then click on the other shape, and now we have the side of the previous shape. So I really recommend this tool. I don't know what's going on here, but it didn't work. But it's not working. So just let me change again the color. I'm gonna do this real quick so we can have a different color in here. Okay. So we have 3 tones in here. Okay, I think that's fine. Let me also convert this into a button. Okay, I think there's some more likely where I want it. Okay, so we can group these buttons as well, so we don't have, elements, a lot of elements in our project Explorer. We can reduce the amount of elements displayed by using groups. That's also a good practice. So let's regroup this and rename these buttons. Okay, so we have background elements, page title, and buttons. We haven't assigned any actions to these buttons yet because I'm gonna add a background shape in here for the content I'm gonna put into this. So let's put it in here, and let's use a photo, one of these shapes. This will be the content background. So elements that are, for example, this one that I'm going to resize to, to align properly to the pyramid angle. If I make this larger here, when I preview this, that part is not going to show on screen. So you don't have to worry about this. Everything that is outside the stage won't be displayed. Okay, let me try to make the angle right. There you go. Well, you know what I'm trying to do. Okay. And let's add a transparency here. Not that much, 50%, I would say. Okay, probably 40. Okay, cool. We can also move this into the background elements. And I'm going to create a content group now. I'm going to insert a new text block. And I will rename this intro content. Okay, that's a little bit too large. What will we resize this intro content? Okay, and I'm going to add a different into header. I'm going to insert another text block. And I'm going to use some text in here. Okay, so I don't have to make this up. Okay, and let me change this to maybe 16 for this fake text. Okay, so we have now intro content. Now we have our actual content. And we also need to regroup this or make a group out of it. Create a group, and we're going to rename this intro content. Now I have almost all of my elements grouped into, well, groups, but the page title, that's okay. It doesn't matter if you leave an element outside of a group, but try to not have a lot of elements, you know, outside of groups, unless, you know, that's what you want to do. So we want to always try to make as, you know, as simpler as possible. Okay, so I'm going to start adding actions into, well, actually I have to create the content, the display content. So let me add a new, real quick here. Let me also hide this so I can create the actual content of this. And actually I can copy the same structure because it's basically what we're going to change in here, the header and the content. Yeah, so we're going to rename this header 01 and content 01. And let's rename this to header 1. Group them. Copy 3 times. Rename the groups. And also rename the headers in here. Okay. When I run this, you will see that everything will be on top of each other, the content. We have to start hiding groups, things that we don't want to show when the interaction is being previewed. So we're gonna go to the properties and we're gonna click initially hidden so we don't see this. This way we will only see the intro content, right? Okay, so this is the first part, you know, building up the layout of our interaction. And now I'm going to start adding actions into our buttons. Okay, let me see how the structure is in here. Maybe we can put the content, you know, down. At the bottom. Yeah, I think it's much better now. And let me add also text to my buttons, because remember, I converted the shape into a button so I can add text to this shape. So I would like to have some text for reference in here. 18. Okay, that looks small, but I think it's better. Okay, 2. What was the sign here? 26. This is Joan. There you go. And number 3. So since this is basically a click to reveal interaction, let me add actions into our buttons. Oops. Okay, just let me scroll this up until I found Joan. 16. No, 26. I'm bold. Okay. So as you can see, every time you convert a shape into a button, you will get an empty action. That's fine. We can use it. And I'm gonna start adding actions. In this case, I'm gonna add a show action. So every time I click here, I want to show content. But which content? Well, content 1. Okay. So we can copy this, and we can delete this and paste it in here. So I don't have to create every time a new action. I will just change the number of the, well, I will just change the group to be shown. And this is content number 3. But there's something missing. There's some missing action, because if I run this, let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I need to hide the intro content. So how can I do this? So I can add a hiding action or hide actions into this each individual buttons, but that will create extra actions or a numerous number and a lot of actions in our buttons. So there is a way to reduce the amount of actions. So instead of having like 6 actions, we can just have 3 actions. Let's put it that way. So because we just have 3 buttons now, but there's interaction. We have up to, I don't know, 24 buttons when our click to reveals. When you work on a glossary, you have a lot of, at least 26 buttons. So instead of adding on each button hide action, we will just create a group action or a group of actions that will hold or will host the hide or show actions. And let me show you in a minute. This is really important. This is one of the this is one of the best practices on Lectora for creating templates. So this will come hide actions. I will rename these hide actions, and I'm gonna just add an action in here. And the first action will be hide the intro, which is this one, the intro content. Sorry, let me rename this because we often use intro content. So that's a reference name. Okay, so hide intro content. Okay, we can also rename the action hide intro. Okay, let me add a second action that will hide the content number 1 group, and it will also hide content number 2 and content number 3. Okay, so what's next? We have to add an action into these buttons to run this hide actions group. So this is add an action, and I will mouse click run group or run action group, and which group hide actions. Okay, this the order of the group is also really important because I want to trigger this first, before the actual show action of the group, because if I don't run it first, it will hide the content group that I'm going to show you. Let me copy this into my other buttons, and let's run this and see if this is working the way it's supposed to. Okay, let's Google Chrome. Okay, I did something wrong. Let's fix the mistake. Hide actions on show content too. Okay, this is running great. It's running great. Maybe I did something wrong here. It seems that probably the issue comes from my content groups. Let me hide this. Content 01, content. Yeah, I didn't rename this, so that was the confusion. Content 3, yes. Also, when we created these or converted these shapes into buttons, we didn't change the color of the selected state. So let me change this to, I don't know, this softer color. So I can add another action into this. So every time I click, they will change to the selected state too. So we know that the button has been clicked. Okay, selected. If you click on auto, it will customize the color. You can customize your own colors. Tree. Okay, cool. So I can also add an action after this one that says on mouse click set state of button 1 to selected. You can also change this to this object. It would be also a tip, you know, a good tip or a good practice is to, if the action is going to affect the actual button, always use this object. It will be, you know, it's just a best practice tip when you use set a state, so I don't have to change to button 1, button 3. That's why. And select it. Yeah, just copy and paste this, and it should work now. Okay, let me put this down. So let's run this again. Color 2. Okay, so I have added selected states and everything changes and everything work as it's supposed to. This is like the basic structure, right, of the template. You can add new elements into this. You can remove elements. You can add, you know, change the background, change the color, but it's like a basic structure for the library object that we're gonna create. But we also add some animation into this, so it will look like a static. So there's something you can do in here. Select like the group you want to animate. So sometimes it's better to animate the group entirely, and sometimes it's just better to animate each individual, you know, individual shapes or elements. So for instance, all of my background elements, I don't want to animate all of my background elements. I just want to animate this background content background shape. So what I would do is just select the image and go to the transition in, and let's say float from left, and let's make this fast, right? So every time we run this will animate in, and we can also animate our layers or our groups. We can select the tree, and I would say float, and let's say float up, make this fast. After delay before the transition, the previous transition, and let's run this. So it will, you know, it won't look static. Okay, cool. So you have seen this. Let me change a little bit the opacity of this to 50 so we can see the background. Okay. Okay, now we have built our template. There is this content the content of this template I would want to change when I'm on a different course, right? Or when I'm on a different template. I want to put this template into another template. I want to import it. How can I do this? Well, you can do it both, you know, two ways to make this. The first one is to create a, also let me change, I haven't saved this project. Save as a pyramid. Click to rebuild. Oh, oops. Click to rebuild. You can just save it as a template, regular template that you will, every time you open Lectora, you will have available for you. And just let me copy this title, and we'll go to save options, and we're gonna save the project as template. We can rename this. We're gonna use the same name for the description. So if I open another instance of Lectora, I should have this template save out, and I'm opening another instance so you can see where it's located, so you can use it afterwards. Okay, hold a second. There you go. So it's a new project, create new project. Then you go straight to my templates, and you will see all the templates we have created in here. And let's find our pyramid. So have you guys seen it? Pyramid, click to reveal. Okay, so it doesn't have a thumbnail, and this is also really important to take into consideration. Why doesn't it have a thumbnail? Because this is something I want to show you, because I was on the project level and the project level was empty, so I didn't have anything to show. So if you go to the page level, you will see your whole interaction, and this will act as a thumbnail when you save it as a template. So let me resave this, but from the page level, save option, save project template. And now if I open a new template, you have to, we'll see the actual thumbnail, the thumbnail we didn't have before. I'm opening another instance so you can see. Okay, but this is the first method, right? This is just a save as template. And we're gonna try another method that I like, better. And I'll explain in a minute why. Okay, I'm moving yeah, there you go. No, this isn't. There you go. Okay, cool. File, create new project from template, from my templates. There you go. Pyramid, click to reveal, and I can just import it, and you will get everything already, ready for you to use on your projects. Okay, so this is the first way to do it. Save it as a template. Let me close this down. And okay, this is our template. So I'm going to create a library objects, and this is and creating a library objects for me is much better because it's allow you to have your own library of library objects or interaction, and you can store them wherever you want. They're also stored here in inside Lectora, but you can save them, you can export them, you can upload it to your cloud, and you can have it as your own repository of interactions, and that you can import later on different projects. So how can we create these library objects? Okay, we can do it this way. You have to right click on the interaction, save a library object, and let's see, pattern, click to reveal, template. Well, let's not use the word template. It's library object. Library object. Okay. Now let me open again Lectora 21 so I can show you where it's stored. Okay, it will take less than a minute, I promise. And there you go. So we have a tab here that it's named My Library. We have to click in here, and you will see elements icon. If you have imported different assets into this, you will find these objects into the library. But there is a folder named Library Objects, and here you can store all of your library objects templates, and you just have to double click, and it will import into your new page or your new document, right? Okay, so this is how to create a library object. But now let me create a new project, a different project. I'm gonna use one of their course starters in here. So what with the template we just created looks pretty similar to Onyx. So let me create this. Let me say no. So this is like the main goal of creating a template and using library objects, that you can import these objects into your own courses, as I mentioned before. Yes, and you will see that since this, where is the close button in here? We have this top bar here, so we have to move this element down, but it doesn't matter because this is part of the if you have group elements, if you just wanna move individual elements, you can press the Alt key and you can reposition your elements. That's also a cool trick that I learned. So you don't move all the group elements, but just individual ones. Okay, so this looks pretty similar to Onyx in here. So we have to, the only thing that I have left to do here is to change the color to make it look like Onyx, right? So I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna show you a quick example of how to do this. Okay, yeah, let's change all of this. And this is how you can import and you can reuse assets from a new template. You turn it into a library object, what it's called, and then you can import it into your own courses or your own course starters. And also the form, how do we upload these assets into our library? You have your toolbar here, and we have these wireframe templates. Let's select this one, and you have this AWO file which corresponds to the library objects, and the AWP that corresponds to the template. And you just click it, you will import it into Lectora. And what is left now? Well, you have to change the color, change the branding, change the graphics to match your own course. But this is basically how we, put these templates out into the library, how we upload this into our asset library, and we can reuse all of these assets, all of these interactions that started just as a big project coming from a course starter, and then we break this up into individual modules, and we upload this. We exported these modules as library objects that are that we can reuse on different projects. So yeah, it might seem pretty basic, but the amount of the time saving, the amount of time saving, I'm gonna say resources we can get by creating this, it's what is important, right? So I don't know, guys, if you have any questions.
It doesn't look like we have any questions right now, but we'll give everyone a minute or two if they want to type those into the chat or questions panel. In the meantime, Troy, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I do have a quick question before people jump off. If you would, in the chat, type in if you're an LO or a LD user, a Lectora Online or a Lectora Desktop user. That'd be interesting to see from the group. It's something I've been meaning to add for a poll and stuff, and I just completely spaced on it.
Yeah, it is great that you mentioned Lectora Online, because the process is basically the same, but the library object, the extension is different. So I will show you in a minute what I meant with this. So I have another sample in here. So for you to create a library object in Lectora Online, you have to do the same. Right click on your page, save a library object, Academic Lectura test, save. But but it's different. You just get it. You can get it from a different part of these library objects. And see, just the only thing that changes is the window or the flyout. right? So where is permit lecture bit? Then you can import it or you can export it. So you can use it on a different Lectora online project. This only works for Lectora online projects. The extension is WWO. And in the extension in Lectora desktop is AWO. But it's basically the same. The way to create it is the same.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you guys for filling in the chat there. I really appreciate it. All right.
It looks like we do have a lot of people who are saying Lectora desktop or that they have both.
Yeah, I see that. And this says Lauren Webster. How would you say the software compares to others like Articulate? We are currently not using Lectora. I'll tell you, I've been, it kind of goes into my background, and I'm sure, people on this call are tired of hearing about it. But, before then, I actually think Molly G is on the call, who I think I used to work with. But one of the things, I used to be a customer of ELBs for a long time. And one of the first tools that I learned in content development was Lectora back in the day. It all depends too. What I would find is that one of the things that it comes down to is just the tool is advanced so much to where it helps make you do the difficult things a lot easier. I will say there's probably some training that you need to follow up on, and there's a great knowledge base we've really built up on. But I would say that one of the biggest things, and Jill's put in some things here too. Accessibility for courses is also a big hallmark of ours. Thanks, Chris. But one of the things, like Alan's showing here, there's a lot more opportunity for custom development in my time frame of developing content, from being someone that used Articulate for a long time, making development training for Kubota Tractor, or I think even helping upload some of the content that I think Molly has made for her team and stuff, all the way to not using a storyline or not using an Articulate for a couple of years. It kind of goes back and forth. So
yeah, and one of the things that we didn't cover in this webinar specifically is that you can create a responsive courses, right? You can have different views for tablets or phones, and we didn't cover this on this webinar, but it's one of also of the enhancements of Lectora. We can just compare it to a storyline, that you have like a proper responsive development tool. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, I mentioned it depends on the size of your team too. We all face those pressures of, do I have time to learn something that is maybe a little bit more, it's going to stretch my own personal goals. It's going to stretch my developmental goals and development. So it kind of just comes up to that too, to where, it's really as complex as you need it to be, or as simple as you can go. So.
We do have a couple of questions in the chat. One, Jill is asking, do you have any more examples of different functions or pages that would work well as a template? Can you do this for different quiz types?
Yes. Also, if you go into our course starter page, you can see we have created course starters that also have quiz in it, and I think that where's the Onyx one that I just opened? Yes, as you can see, also the test, it's also made as a template, so you can export this test as a library object and import it into your course. It will just work fine. You can export the whole test, and you can just import the individual question as library objects, and it will just work just fine. But yeah, it's possible.
No, and thank you, Lauren, for the response there too. I see in the Q&A. I would say, if you are using Articulate and stuff like that, one of the great things that helped me with Articulate and stuff was they do have a good knowledge base that walks you through. And that's something that Lectora has really come a long way with. There's tons of videos, short videos that can get you from, now that you have this great kind of tool that Alan's shown us, that's a really quick, easy way to do things. You can kind of start branching off on these quick win guides and tutorials and start incorporating what Alan's taught you here. I think you'd really give it a look. I think you'd really find it interesting, especially on the knowledge base.
Thank you, Troy. And then there was a question from Dave about whether or not there is a detailed Lectora design textbook. And this is a very timely question, as ELB Learning and Chris McMillan and Diane Elkins from Artisan just released one. It's available on Amazon. I posted the link to that in the chat. Thank you, Alan and Troy, for sharing your knowledge with us today. This has been a great session. Hopefully we'll see you all on another webinar soon.
For sure. Thank you, guys.